Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. We're going to work on a reel today that's kind of a good story reel, if you will. John from California sent me in a group of reels. You saw them in the preview. There was a Penn Mariner 49 in there. There was an older Sierra reel in there, and there was also a Berkeley reel in there. Well, the Berkeley reel turned out to be broken beyond repair. The reel had a fractured gearing system. The oscillation would not work. Parts were not available. Lost cause, if you will. Well, I was at a flea market this morning, and I was dropping off some reels that I had repaired for one of the vendors. And lo and behold, there's a reel there. It's the Sportfisher 2100, similar in size and shape and manufacturer to the Berkeley reel that John had sent me. And when I go to flea markets, I'm always looking for candidates to, well, do YouTube videos on. Even though I may not own the reel and likely will never see a reel like this come in for service, well, there's folks out there that are still fishing these reels, still want to keep them tuned up, so want to give them a second chance. And if I find a candidate for a video like that, I'm all too happy to spend a few dollars to buy it and use it as an example. So John's going to benefit. I'm going to do this as a video, and John's going to get this reel back and be able to take it fishing instead of being able to use the Berkeley reel. So a couple of things when you're looking at a flea market reel, you want to make sure that the fishing reel is complete. In this case, it's got a nice bail system on it. It's almost like a Mitchell 300, and you just saw I flipped the bail to show you it works. I want to make sure that the spool is intact, that the adjuster knob is there, that the handle is good, knob's not cracked, and that everything works okay. The reason for that is parts are generally not available on old reels like this, and if you have to go searching for parts like we had to go searching for parts for that Berkeley, chances are you won't find them. Well, this is interesting. All the way back in the 70s or 80s, they were still using tags that you could, or they started using tags that you could peel off to disguise where the reels were made sometimes. But this one says manufactured in Korea, distributed by Kmart Corp in Troy, Michigan. Well, just as we were saying, parts are hard to find for this reel. Kmart's are hard to find these days. We actually in New Jersey had one of the last 3 or 4 of them, and that one just closed a few weeks ago. So good luck if you break it. Well, it's pretty much not going to get a third chance. But we're going to take this one apart. We'll show you how it's made, how to service one if you have one, and how to keep it fishing, which I'm sure is what John's going to do. All right, I'm going to start by removing the exterior pieces, and as I do, I want to say thank you to all of our subscribers and encourage those of you that have not subscribed to go ahead and subscribe to my channel. The channel is just about, or may just have passed, the 19,000 subscriber mark. We're on our way to 20,000. I appreciate each and every one of those of you that have subscribed. You're what helps keep the channel vital. And if you subscribe, well, you won't miss anything. And if you hit that notification button, you'll see exactly when I post these, and you'll be able to continue to watch these. Well, this is a plastic spool. It's got a little clicker underneath it. It's got a drag system up top. We'll service that at the end, but for now I want to get underneath and take a look at that. I made sure that the anti-reverse click worked in this. Now I want to turn that click off, because when I service a reel, I'm never quite sure what the setup is for that anti-reverse dog, and if I don't know what that setup is, I don't want to risk pulling it out and shooting a spring. And you can do that by shutting it to the off position when you go to remove the main gear. This has got a handle, and it screws onto the main gear. I noticed that we have a cup, not a cap here, which means that we have a little tension washer underneath holding the rotor in. This rotor doesn't wobble terribly. That is a problem with reels that have those little U-clips holding them in. So we're going to take the 3 side plate screws out. And when I do that, I'm going to lay those on my desk. I'm going to make sure that those 3 are the same size. 2 of the 3 are. I expect that all of these will be, but sometimes you just don't know. And if you notice that one's long or short, by all means mark the location of it. These 3 are the same. They're going there, go into my parts tray. I use a fast food container as a parts tray, and it keeps all the pieces that I have taken off. Well, the reel's turning smooth. To me, I'm not going to find a lot of dried grease in here. If I do, it's going to be on the side cases. But in this case, that's kind of exactly what I expected to see. Plastic cover here, metal cover here. It's a way to save $1 or $2. I'm going to pull the pin out now. That's going to release the axle shaft. I'm going to hold the crosswind block, pull that axle shaft out. Make sure that that axle shaft comes out nice and easy. If it doesn't come out nice and easy, it's going to be bent, and you don't want that. When you take these out, clean them off. If they've got some hard tarnish or corrosion on them, go to a kitchen scrubby or go to a 4-0 steel wool and buff that roughness out, because as it passes through that pinion gear, it's going to be rough performance if it's not cleaned and smooth. I'm going to clean off the crosswind block. Now, I should have told you at this point to have taken a picture. I didn't. The pin for the crosswind block can go bottom or top. You need to know which way it's going, and we're going to find out. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put it back on because I didn't take a picture. I'm going to rotate the main gear, and that's telling me that the flat side is the top. Here's why you need to take the picture, because if you tried to put this crosswind block in upside down, like this, as you went to go on to the stroke, it's going to bump the pinion gear. So take the picture. Of course, I'm taking the pictures, and if I was doing this by myself and I wasn't smart enough to realize that I had to go take that piece and retest right there, well, I probably would have installed it backwards, and then we would have had a problem there. All right, there's a clip now that holds the pinion gear in, so we got to remove that clip. To remove that clip, I'm using a pick, and then I'm just pulling from both sides. And this is what I was mentioning about a U-clip. Sometimes they're wide. This one just happens to be exactly in the shape of a U. Doesn't matter what side's up or down on that. I'm going to remove the rotor now, and I'm going to push out the main gear, and we're going to clean all of these pieces and parts. A lot of what you do when you do a fishing reel service is you make sure that you examine the parts, see if anything's missing, see if anything's broken, and then you want to do a cleaning. You want to make sure that all of the old greases and the like are out of there, and then you want to re-lube. Well, this one's dead dry here, no cleaning necessary, but we do want to make sure that we oil the anti-reverse dog. Just a little bit of grease on that stud there. Let's get that out of the way. All right, check the main gear. This is what I was saying. If you had the dog engaged, there's a chance that this could have flipped it out getting caught. Also notice you have a little washer here that's going to go when the main gear goes in. All right, main gear surface is clean. A little bit of oil, old grease around that ridge there. If you found that it was really clogged and congested, go ahead and use a hard brush and brush out the channels of the teeth. In this case, you can see there isn't any grease on there, so you don't need to spend a lot of time on it. A little washer, it's a shim washer for the gear, had some grease on it, so let's get that out of the way. And just going to put that off to the side for a moment. We're going to go up top. So the up top piece of this has a trip lever that's going to set, the spring here is going to set the trip lever into the slot there. And then when it's riding underneath, it's going to bump like this. And bump this way. You can see it'll fire that and it'll come back out. If your bail is functioning, this one was functioning when we tested it. I'm going to just clean the rotor. I'm going to have a little bit of penetrating oil come into this side here, and then we'll finish that with a little bit of oil when it's ready after it's been cleaned. You do not need to remove the bail wire especially if you do not know how to reset the bail wire. Bails seem to be the bugaboo of a whole lot of folks in terms of where their repair or servicing process breaks down. And I get reels from, well, more than time to time with somebody who started the project, got to the bail, disassembled the bail, couldn't figure it out. So, word of caution, you don't need to do it unless it's broken. If it is broken, well, of course you're going to do it. If you're fishing, if you dunk the reel and it's got sand in it, of course you want to clean that out. If it's sluggish and the oiling doesn't fix it, go ahead and do that. But by all means, first try to do just what we did there. All right, to reinstall the rotor then, you're going to put a little bit of grease where it comes through the case. I'm using fishing reel grease. I'm using Penn Precision reel grease. So that's going to fit in the sleeve of the case, and then you want to get the grease onto the pinion gear. Of course, we can't put the rotor in right away because we got to put the main gear back. We're going to do the same thing with the main gear. We've checked all of the teeth. I'm going to put a light coat and put the washer on first. Put a light coat onto the shaft and invert it. I'm going to put the grease into the teeth of the gear and onto the face of the gear because the crosswind block is going to ride there. I'm going to reinstall the gear simply by inverting it, pushing it in. And when I do that, I like to move the stud from the anti-reverse all the way down. Or not the anti-reverse, thinking that because I'm looking at that, but that stud is for the crosswind block. All right, and we can take our rotor and we can reinstall that. Make sure that your gears mesh. Get your U-clip. Set your U-clip into the slots and press it all the way in. You don't have to worry too much because the case is going to hold that U-clip from slipping out. All right, well, this is a good point to say, a lot of folks say I make it look too easy and I'm going too fast and things like that. Well, if you have a question on this reel or any reel in particular, if you leave that question in the comment section, I'll try and help you out with that. This is my normal pace, and I'm from the Northeast, so I guess I got to apologize a little bit about that New York minute or whatever, if you will. But hopefully most of you are learning as we go along, and those of you that are using this to service your reel, well, you may just have to rewind. All right, so I've set the crosswind block over the stud. I've inserted the axle shaft. I've located the hole in the axle shaft for the pin, and now I want to align that hole with the hole in the crosswind gear. Once I do that, I can take that pin. That pin is in my tray. And we can put the pin in. And then before I do too much more, I want to put this handle back on. And that's because even though I've said we've tested and pretty sure that that's the way that the crosswind block goes, well, we're not quite certain, so let's make sure. Turn it up and down, and that is the way that that goes. Now we're going to put that anti-reverse dog in gear again. Look at that. It's like it just came off the factory line yesterday. We got to do two things now. We can close up the side case. There's those 3 screws. Got a nice crisp snap to this. So that's all good. And normally if you have 4 or 5 or 6 case screws, you want to alternate directions. You want to kind of go north, south, east, west. Well, we only have 3, and it really doesn't matter which ways you go on this one. The reason you alternate is to keep the tension off of the case. So let's put this one back in. We're going to clean that spool. We're going to take a look at the drags. My guess on that drag is that it's probably going to be a Teflon or a felt drag, but we want to make sure that they're cleaned and serviced. And then we're going to ship this one out to John and wish him luck. Okay, that's that. I want to clean this section first. It's just got old dust and dirt and the like. I'm going to use a rod and reel cleaner. I use Penn Precision rod and reel cleaner. It's kind of a cleaner and a wax all in one. It'll get rid of a lot of the old stuff. Does a nice job. and does it quick and easy. I use a kitchen scrubby. There's a mild abrasive in there. It's the same thing you use on pots and pans. And we'll just clean that up to make it look nice. And now let's just take a look at what's going on with the drag system. So there is a ring clip in here. Just trying to find it. You can see how it's got a little curled end on it. That's your clip. And that holds probably one drag in here maybe. We have a very old stack, as I would expect. And interestingly enough, we have a cork washer in here. And I'm going to leave that cork washer in there because cork can tear. But cork is permeable, and so I am going to put some oil onto that. And the next thing we have is a tension washer. And you can see how this drag washer is set here. Well, that drag isn't working very well. This drag is always on or it's always off, but there's no flexibility in there. I'm going to use a utility knife to separate the two. It's stuck on that piece of metal. And then I'm going to buff the metal to remove any burrs that are on it. Notice that you have a D shape on that washer there. And then this tension washer is kind of the same thing. And I got to be careful with this one. Now I guess if I wound up with this thing breaking on me, I would probably just replace it with a Teflon washer. But this is a little risky, and I'm about ready to end my risk here because I don't want to slice this in half. Oh, we got it off. There you go. Just be patient. And we almost have it off. So flea markets are good places to find used equipment. I just did a YouTube short on that. I would encourage you to look around flea markets, yard sales, garage sales, and the like. You'd be surprised what you can find, and you'd be surprised at the reduced cost versus buying new. And something like this would be a good reel, and you don't have to pay much for it, right? And like I said, I paid a few dollars for the reel, and this one can go fishing again. All right, we're going to do the same thing with this cork here. Now you got that tension washer in there, so that will give you variability. And then we have the top washer. We'll do the same thing here. We'll put it all together. We'll give it a test. Remember, this has got a D on it. There's a flat spot on the spool here, on that axle shaft. That's the only way it can fit in to lock in your tube. All right, put that clip back in. Find the inset in the spool. Keep pressure on it. And this is a spring, so you have to be careful because that spring will shoot if you're not careful. All right, find the flat spot. Find your notch in the spool. Load your spool. Load your adjuster button. Tighten it down, make sure it's working. It is. And let's see if we get a little variability. Yeah, now we have a variability in that drag washer we didn't have before. I always recommend, after you've tightened that down, to back that off, just so you don't compress it like what happened here. That got compressed, and then eventually it just melded itself together and lost the drag function. All right, there's the Sportfisher 2100. It's a Kmart marketed reel. Ready to have a second chance. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please like it. Again, thanks to everybody who's subscribed, and if you haven't subscribed, please consider it. And if you do subscribe, by all means, please hit that notification button so that you continue to watch videos like this, as well as videos on the fishing industry, various fishing models, product they've used, things like that. So to everybody who's a first responder, essential personnel, thank you for everything it is that you've been doing to keep us safe. To everyone, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.